Good afternoon, my bad. Thanks for coming. If you guys haven't signed up yet, we have a sign-in sheet. Miss Jenna, please raise your hand and wave. Right there. If you haven't signed up yet, please sign up with Jenna before the end so we can track who came to the meeting. I'm Nick. Nice to see you. If you don't know me, I'm Nick. Another thing, if you're interested in becoming a member today and you are not a member, let us know. There's an indication on the sign-in sheet, or talk to me afterwards and I'll get you the information to sign out, fill out actually. Another thing here, in order to vote on the ratification later, you do need to be a voting member, but you'll learn about that in a little bit. Real quick, we have some friends from the CSU that have come to join us. They're eating, so you'll see them in a minute, but they're going to be doing the second half of the meeting. The first part of the meeting is going to deal with some internal business. We have to talk about our nominations, and then we have to do a quick vote on our budget. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to the nomination committee right now. Thanks for coming.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for coming. I am your Chapter Elections Committee Chair, Lilia Flores, and let me introduce my Vice Chair, Paige Boyer, who has been a tremendous help in preparing for the nominations and announcement presentation today. Thank you very much, Paige. Your Chapter Elections Committee was appointed by the Chapter President based on the following 3 conditions. We are members in good standing, we are not planning to run for any chapter office, and we shall not advocate for or against any candidate running for elections. Our chapter elections duties are: we nominate and schedule a meeting, accept and collect nominations from the chapter offices and confirm eligibility, validate the nomination results and communicate them to the chapter president by December 18th. Another duty of the Chapter Elections Committee is to issue and tabulate ballots at the elections meeting. However, since headquarters will be holding the election, our chapter will utilize the mail-in ballots. The following 3 elections are conducted in the first phase of the elections process. Chapter officer elections. This election covers all non-bargaining unit positions on the chapter executive board. Chapter bargaining unit representatives. Only chapter members in good standing of the bargaining unit will vote. General counsel delegate and alternate. This election covers the delegate and the alternate from each chapter to represent CSUEU. The chapter receives 1 delegate for each 200 members or major fraction thereof. A chapter may have no less than 1 delegate regardless of the membership count. The chapter president also serves as the general counsel delegate for the chapter. All members in good standing will vote on the delegate. The terms of office for chapter officers, chapter chief stewards, and bargaining unit representatives have a 3-year term commencing upon the announcement of the election results. No member may hold more than 1 position with the following exceptions. Any elected officer of the chapter may also be a general counsel delegate alternate, but may only hold 1 vote on the chapter board. CSUEU policy file prohibits a certain conduct. Candidates and members are prohibited from using obscene or false statements. Candidates and members shall not encourage voters to base their judgments on consideration of race, color, sex, religion, occupation, national origin, sexual orientation, ancestry, disability, age, or any legally protected class. Members' dues shall not be used to support or oppose any candidate. The CSUEU equipment or resources such as, but not limited to, telephone, fax, computers shall not be used to support or oppose any candidate over another. CSEA staff are prohibited from advocating for or against candidates or rendering any services to any candidate. Any candidate may file a protest with the chair of the Chapter Elections Committee for violations of the conduct prohibitions. I am now going to invite Paige up to complete the nominations information and process. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lily, as well. You are a huge help. I barely did anything. So on your agendas, we're just going to go right along, and we're going to read all the position descriptions available. So bear with me. To validate your intent to run for office, you must complete a nomination and consent form. It's one on your table. It looks like this. To acknowledge that you are a member in good standing and agree to serve if elected as to the Chapter 310 Executive Board. The forms are available on the table. They were sent to you by email, and they're available in the DDH on the CSUEU bulletin board. All chapter office positions require that you complete basic job steward training within 6 months. A person can nominate himself or herself. The nomination period closes on Friday, December 15th. If you have any questions about the timeline, there are timelines on your table for your reference. So we will start with the first one, which is the chapter president and the general counsel delegate. This position would preside at all meetings of the executive board, review work of chapter officers and committees, ensure adherence to duties and responsibilities, represent the chapter in a professional manner, serve on the CSUEU board of directors and the CSEA general counsel, and be familiar with contract language. Chapter bylaws, CSUEU policy file, and Robert's Rules of Order. If there are any nominations if there are any nominations for the chapter president, please bring them forward, or we can also collect them at the end for the meetings, since there are a lot of us here. The vice president shall act for and in the place of the president and serve on the executive board. I'm just going to have you all bring them up at the end or come in at the end instead of asking for each one to come forward, since there are a lot of us. The treasurer would provide accounting for all chapter revenues and serve on the executive board. The secretary would provide written record of all chapter meetings and serve on the executive board. The organizing chair would identify and chairs the chapter organizing committee, develops chapter programs to promote membership recruitment, and coordinate the statewide organizing activities. For all of the unit representatives, which I'll read, they would represent each unit. So Unit 2 representatives must be from Unit 2, and they would serve on the executive board and serve as primary steward and communication contact for employees in their respective bargaining unit. A Unit 5 representative must be from Unit 5, and they would serve on the executive board and serve as primary steward and contact for employees in Unit 5. Unit 7 representative must be from Unit 7, and they would serve on the executive board and be the primary contact for Unit 7. Unit 9 representatives must be from Unit 9, and they would serve on the executive board and serve as the primary steward and contact person for employees in Unit 9. After nominations and eligibility for every chapter officer and chapter bargaining unit rep has been completed, including any uncontested offices shall be deemed filled, and their terms as officer-elect start immediately. Per the CSUEU policy file 601.00, the intent is that after nominations are closed, any uncontested office is filled by acclamation. The term officially commences when the entire election is over and all results, including uncontested offices, are announced by the VP for organizing. All offices without nominations shall be filled after the chapter election have concluded. The VP for organizing will send an email to the chapter list listing the results of any uncontested elections, all nominees for remaining positions, and information about the upcoming election. This email marks the official completion of the nominations phase. Once that is completed, the chapter office positions are voted on by all members in good standing. Only chapter members in good standing of the same bargaining unit will vote upon each bargaining unit representative position. Our chapter has chosen to hold the elections through headquarters. Ballots will be produced by headquarters and mailed to its members by January 16, 2018. Check the mail for this. Return ballots back to headquarters by 5 p.m. on February 16, 2018. and all chapter elections shall be concluded by February 28th, 2018. The General Council Delegate is one position for Chapter 310. We get an additional one on top of the General Council Delegate that the President would already be. We encourage you to run for the General Council Delegate position. March 9th is the last day to return nomination forms to CSUEU headquarters. General Council Delegate may hold one vote on a chapter board. The delegate would have a 3-year term commencing upon announcement of the election results. All members in good standing will receive a ballot to vote upon the General Council Delegate. Ballot is due to CSUEU headquarters on April 20th, 2018. The General Council Delegate will be sworn in by the chapter president. Vice President for organizing will announce the General Council Delegate results by May 30th, 2018. Are there any questions? Cool. Thanks again for joining us today and being a part of Chapter 310's democratic process.
Thank you. All right, so we got 9 positions open, and I've rarely seen such an intelligent group of people in front of me. So, if you guys are willing, just put it in the paper at the end of the meeting. With that, I'd like to bring up our treasurer.
Good afternoon. So everyone, I put on tables, and I have extras if you guys that don't have a table, if you guys want one. The treasurer's report is on one side, and the budget is on the next side. So basically, for an estimate, I'm estimating for like this month's expenses for the lunch, the board of directors meeting, that Catherine went to in November, and I had 2 bills. I had some printing bills and room rental from our last meeting that needs to get paid. So we should end the year with $4,792.16. Which, if you go to the next slide, budget, with the $4,792.16, and then we bring in $400 a month for our dues, that would give us $9,592 for the year. So we're hoping to get new laptops for the president and secretary. Okay. So that's what the $2,000 in equipment purchases are. Other than that, we just did $3,000 for chapter meetings, $1,000 for steward training because, well, it's a new year, election year, so we're gonna have to get people trained.
Excuse me, the union is buying a laptop computer for the president?
Yes, yes.
The union president.
No.
Thank you.
It's for Nick.
And,
Yes, Jamie.
and the reason for that is that the president and the other, secretary, as union officers, there's a lot of, confidential information, and so we need computers that are set up, and these would be set up with programming and things like that to handle all the, handle things like grievances and other confidential information. And that's why laptops are needed, and though $2,000, it seems like a lot, it would be cheaper to purchase them outright than do any kind of,
Yeah, that's what we did last time was
pay, some kind of installment plan. So I know from experience that's it's the best way to do it.
Plus, are we not supposed to be doing union stuff on state computers? Yeah, so needs to be on a separate system altogether. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Jamie. So recruitment, 200, chapter unit meetings, 1,000. Hopefully we'll be offering more of those throughout the year. So we have more chapter 7, chapter 9, chapter 5 and 2. So board of directors meeting, 2250. And then just odds and ends if we even use it, telephone, supplies, postage. And so that's the budget for next year. So we're gonna sunshine this for 30 days. And then you guys will look at it, and then next month we will vote on it. So if anyone has any more questions? Okay, thank you.
The Amazon treasurer's report.
All right, now we have some guests from the union. They were bargaining for us, and they're going to answer questions. So thank you for coming.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rocky Sanchez. I'm the Vice President for Representation, and I am an ASC2 of 25 years at Cal Poly Pomona, so I'm from down south. I'm as ASC2, a Unit 7 person. I started out as a member at large, then worked on the classification committee, and then became vice chair of Unit 7, then chair, and somehow I fell into VP of Rep. So my colleagues here, Mike Chavez is the Unit 5 chair from Stanislaus, Rich McGee, Unit 9 chair from Cal State San Bernardino, or in Pomona, we like to say Pomona East. He can say the reason why. But we're here basically because we got a tentative agreement with the CSU, and one of the things that we have in our policy files that we have to hold ratification meetings. And so we've got a PowerPoint presentation, and afterwards, sometime, if Nick is lucky, I'll get it to him tonight, maybe tomorrow, but he will eventually get it so that he can share it with everybody if that's how your chapter works, and maybe do a later on meeting. We also have some summary on the TA in terms of what changed, what has stayed the same. It's an Excel spreadsheet. So we're going to get started here. I do have to say that I'm really excited. This is the second time I've been on your campus. I'm really happy to be here. So last time I roamed around forever and ever trying to find the building. Nick was very good in providing really good instructions for somebody who's severely directionally challenged, that I didn't have a problem finding the building. Of course, Rich helped too. So, getting started here. This is your bargaining team. It's the 4 bargaining units, or what we refer to as the BUs. You've got the 2, 5, 7, 9. These are your chairs, and the vice chairs for the individual bargaining units. Then there's me, and then Pat Gant, who is your the statewide president. And how did we get to the 10-year or tentative agreement? In 2016, we sent out surveys to our members, meaning all of you statewide, workshops and meetings to identify the key issues. In January 2017, we sunshined. That means we opened articles in our current contract stating this is what we wanted to bargain over. From February through October, over a 10-month period, we had multi-days of bargaining sessions, caucusing, meeting with campus representatives, meaning if we went to San Jose, we got to meet members there, and we got our members to actually sit behind us, have our backs, when we were meeting across the table with the CSU bargaining team. And then at 10:45 p.m. on October 25th, and we started at 9 a.m. on that morning, we actually signed our tentative agreement. And so now it's time for ratification. I'm going to take a little note of personal note here. And this is on behalf of the bargaining team and myself to say thank you to all of you who signed petitions, who sent off emails, who attended rallies, whether they were on this campus or on another campus. We had some people that actually drove down to the chancellor's office and, well, in order to support the bargaining team. We would not have gotten this contract if it wasn't for all of you across the system. You guys scared the bejesus out of CSU. So that's the only thing I can say. We wouldn't have gotten what we got if it wasn't for you, because they started out nasty, disrespectful, and got nastier. And then when they started seeing the movement of all the members across the state and the administrations from the different campuses and even from the chancellor's office going, what the hey? You guys better get on board here. Our people are upset. So, what we found out, going back on script, what we found out from all of you is that there were two things that we needed to take care of. We needed raises and we needed to protect our benefits. Now, I know some of you think that some of the health benefits have actually increased. We don't bargain over our health benefits. That is actually, what the fees are. That is something the CalPERS does. What we do bargain to maintain our benefits is that we keep our formula. Right now we have a 9100 formula. Civil service of SEIU, they have an 8100. If you're not understanding what that means, I'm going to use myself and my sister who works in corrections. We have the same health plan. Both of us are single. Everything is exactly the same thing, with the exception of, for me, I pay zero. I pay absolutely nothing with our formula. She, on the other hand, pays $129 a month. So that's the difference. So what we got are guaranteed salaries. We have more than 9% over the next 19 months. We got a 3% GSI retroactive to July 1 of this year, 3% GSI July 1 of 2018, and a GSI on July 1, 2019. You must be on paid status or leave of each of these dates to be eligible for the 3%. We increased the maximum of the salary range, but kept the minimum the same or frozen. The salary increases are guaranteed and not on condition of the state funding, which is good, because since I said I've been around for 25 years, I remember when the salaries were always a reopener, and we never knew if we were going to get anything. And there's more. Excuse me. All classification minimums will be retroactively increased to $15 an hour. Shift diff or shift differential will be increased from $1.35 and $2.30 per hour depending on the shift that you're on. And a one-time $650 recognition bonus will be paid to all employees on active pay status on the day this contract is ratified. Now, I call this a ratification bonus, and this actually brings up, instead of 9% that you saw, the 3, 3, and 3, this actually brings us up to 9.1 because the one-time bonus fee equals out to about 0.1% of the compensation pool. The other thing is, when I say the day of ratification, we get to ratify if all of you agree that the contract's a good contract, but the Board of Trustees also has to ratify. So on January 30th, they will decide whether they ratify, if we ratify all 4 units. And that's the day. If you're on paid status, you will get that $650. If you work part-time, it'll be prorated. Now, if you decide that to December 31st you're going to retire, you will get your back pay, your retroactive pay of the 3%, but you will not get the bonus. We have no changes to our benefits: healthcare, dental, vision, life insurance, rural healthcare stipend, retirement contributions, which is what they wanted to do, fee waivers. But for me, we will not get an increase of what I refer to as a tax for coming to work. There's no increase for the life of the contract on our parking. So that much is good. And again, no reopeners, and that includes our benefits. So our benefits are safe. We got our salaries that are guaranteed. Now, if you're planning to retire, remember your base salary is a factor that you need to consult with CalPERS so that you can decide as to what you're going to be receiving. On that note, I will turn it over to Mike Chavez.
Thank you, CSU Bakersfield. I want to also take this time to thank each and every one of you for your additional help in helping us secure a tentative agreement. Because like she said, without any of this, without your help, without the other chapters' help, none of this is possible. Because we're only 8 to 10 people on the table. But with your guys' support, it makes a difference. With that saying, let's go ahead and continue this process. So what we have is the ratification process where only CSUEU members may vote. Fair share fee payers. Fair share fee payers may not vote. So for instance, if you're not sure if you're a fee or a dues paying member, on your paycheck, it'll have D for dues and F for fee payers. And it's only pennies. Like, in instance, $3,000. If you make $3,000 per month, it only costs you 6 pennies per month, less than 75 cents for the year. But with that, you get to vote for this tentative agreement. Ratification timelines. The CSUEU is moving into the 21st century, where we'll be voting electronically. If you wish to vote by paper ballot, contact your chapter president, Nick, for a provisional ballot. The chairs on Unit 5 and 7 have decided to also provide paper ballots for their respective units. So we will have, Units 5 and 7 will either have a choice of either voting electronically or paper. But you can only do one or the other. If you do them both, your vote will be canceled out. If you do not receive a ballot in the mail by early January 2018, request a provisional ballot. If you are a fair share fee payer and want to join the union, request a provisional ballot and return it with the membership card. It's important you return it and have it signed. You can request a provisional ballot from either calling the CSUEU headquarters or your local chapter president, Nick. But wait, there's more. We have in-range progression. We maintain the IRP process where we as staff individuals can request an IRP. Even our manager can request an IRP for us. That's important, folks, because at the table, management wanted to take that away from us. They wanted management initiated only. So we fought tooth and nail, and that was a non-negotiable item for us. The campus IRP guidelines must be consistent with the CBA, collective bargaining agreement. So everything else stays the same. Expanded employee rights. You are now guaranteed an interview for a CSUEU bargaining position if minimum requirements are met. That's located in Article 9. You now have 10 days to review the draft of your performance evaluation. Your performance evaluation must be based on job-related duties. You now have the right to a union representative in meeting with your appropriate administrator to discuss your performance evaluation. We've also increased the vacation maximum carryover to 320 hours from 272 for 10 years or less, and 440 hours from 384 hours for over 10 years. Immediate vacation requests can be made orally, then later documented in writing. What that means is, like, if you get a flat tire, right? We had some managers across the system, different campuses, people would, if they try to request vacation, it wasn't made in advance and they would be docking them. So this would be a huge help for those individuals, those campuses where they have those type of managers. Additional improvements. A working group consisting of the CSU and CSUEU will be formed to
You're
review
one
the
slide
salary
ahead.
structure.
Wait, you're one slide ahead. We didn't get that
Oh, you got the-
slide.
There we go. A working group consisting of CSU and CSUEU will be formed to review the salary structure issues. An employee may request in writing a lateral reassignment to a posted position that is in the same classification and skill level as the employee's existing classification and skill level. The CSU and CSUEU will bargain over issues related to the athletic trainer classification within 90 days of ratification. Thank you, folks. I'll hand it over to Rich.
Hello, Bakersfield. Oh, even better. I just had pizza lunch. Hello, Bakersfield. Much better. Rich McGee, State Chair, Bargaining Unit 9, CSU 7 years since 1981. So I'm not really since mud. I'm kind of getting to the dirt stage. Folks, I was just like you. I was a union member. I went to a meeting at Anaheim in 1992 and met Catherine Plunkett in the back of the room. And she says, "Gee, Rich, you're really good at this. Grab your mic. Nominate yourself." So I will now give you my nomination speech. I gave you Unit 9. Hi, vote for me, Let's Stop People song. That's it. I have now been on 8 of the last 9 bargaining contracts. I've typed the bloody contract 6 different times. I married the former chair of Unit 9. We had these tremendous union fights. 2 times I've screwed up Unit 9. I ended up saving it. So there's a schism down my living room, honestly, with pro and anti what I'm doing. I'm an IT person, but I'm here for all of you. We'll stay around afterwards if there's any questions. They have my name. You can get a hold of me. I'll give you the confidential answers if you want to go offline. If you've got a question, I can come back and talk to you. I'm about 2 hours away, so it's not a problem to come up here. Let's go there. Intermittent employee time base. This is an accounting practice. If you were intermittent, you used to be employed December to December, or December to June, and then run out of money and have to lay you off. Now it's fiscal year, July 1 to the end of June, so you at least know your status. It's a big savings and help if you're planning your life as an intermittent employee. We're going to meet to discuss system-wide evaluations. Every single campus does their own thing on evaluations, and they're all wrong and they're all dumb. We have agreed to finally centralize this. To show you how bad this is, folks, everyone on my campus, and I keep hearing this statewide, you used to be excellent. And all of a sudden, without warning, HR got on their little weekly phone calls, because they do talk once a week, and all of a sudden you went from excellent to satisfactory without being told why. So I called my boss up and said, "Why the heck did I drop from excellent to satisfactory after 30 years of doing this?" And his quote was, no, this is legendary, he says, "The last excellent person lived 2,000 years ago, got nailed to a tree for being excellent. If you think you can walk on water, I'll give you an excellent. Other than that, you're satisfactory." So I filed a grievance, went all the way up, went to the vice presidents, and his quote was, "Nowhere in that contract does it define what satisfactory excellent means, so satisfactory is the new excellent, you move the goalpost, get used to it." We're going to have standard evaluations statewide. There is a campus up north that evaluates you on how you dress on a decibel point scale. So if Rocky's a 4.8 and Mike's a 3.9, what's the difference and how do you determine that? They don't know. So we're finally going to have fair evaluations, or at least working towards it. And I'm very proud of this fact, folks. This is rich language. The CSU agreed to it without really knowing what they were signing. All evaluation metrics must be clearly defined and achievable. If it's on the evaluation, you have to be able to get to it. Finally, 30 years to get to that point. If your agreement going into a case, you don't have to say what you want anymore to settle it at level 1. That's just a Stewart type issue. Temp employees must get performance evaluation at least once. That's new. For you exempts in the audience, if you get called back to work, plug in the server, come reboot, whatever. If your life is disrupted offsite normal business hours, you will get that time back finally. It isn't management may give you time, it's management will give you the time. The CSU finally agreed with that. Also, for those who are exempt, I think Mike may have skipped the slide accidentally with the button stutter. You can now be assigned all employees only one classification. It's been a typo for 30 years in the contract. It said employees must be assigned to classifications. So you can be a window washer and a cook, or a ship's captain at the same time. Now it's one thing. The S was a typo. We lost some lawsuits. The new people at CSU didn't know it. We got the S out of there. So finally the contracts at least get recognized one performance classification standard. You will get your checks in multiple adjustments. If the contract gets ratified by the Board of Trustees at the end of January, it then has to go to the State Controller's Office to be calculated, because all people moved up and down and came and went and IRPs, those have to be factored in. You will then get an adjustment check retroactive to July 1 of 2017. That 2% you got on the last day of June has nothing to do with this contract. Enjoy your extra 2%. That is not part of the initial 3 years. Okay, that was a Me Too clause. By the way, Me Too has gone out of this contract. The woman at the Chancellor's office that approved the Me Too lost her job over it. And they said, never again will we sign a Me Too. It was a mistake. You're never going to see it again. And she's gone. So Me Too is a thing of the past. We tried. We did give up 2 things. They're both kind of minor. But I want to tell you the honest truth. These are the bad things in the contract. You always have to give and take. The first thing the CSU insisted on from the first day, we heard this last February, was all new employees have to have 10 years for healthcare vesting. Right now, it's 5 years. We're the only agency in the state that has 5-year vesting. CalPERS, Caltrans, any of those people, it's 20 years for them. Yeah, 20 years to get your healthcare. Civil service, 20 years, and 80-20. So we're going to 10 years for new employees. We had no choice. We wouldn't get a contract without it.
July 1.
Yeah.
July 1 of 2018.
Yeah, July 1, 2018. So all you who are currently employed doesn't affect you at all. Your grandfathered in, all right? And the other thing is kind of, we heard it at one of the meetings called the Rich Clause. Again, I had to serve a subpoena on a bad manager at my satellite campus. I gave her 3 weeks notice to my boss. I'm going to the satellite campus on this day in 3 weeks. She showed up, forgot where I was, and called HR and said, where the heck's Rich? We don't know. So now, if you're a steward and you're working on a case or your agreement, you want to discuss a case, you have to have permission from your manager in writing before you can meet with the union official during work time. Lunchtime, before or after work, that's your own time, don't have to worry about that. But if you're going to do union business representing someone, you have to have boss's permission. If they don't respond, you can have your boss's boss sign the permission form, everything like that. That is 100% of the changes in the contract, folks. Everything else is status quo. IRCs are untouched. Your performance classifications are untouched, and actually they're enhanced. Your jobs now have to be consistent with the classification qualification standards. They can no longer say, do this, do this, do this, and oh, by the way, I want you to do that as well because it's a nice thing to have done. We're trying to make it fair to the employees. We're trying to get the bosses to do their job. For the first time, when you get your performance evaluation, it will be signed by a MPP. If you work for an administrative dean, the dean will provide input, but the MPP signs it. They're responsible for what you do. Let them put their necks on the line and say, here's what you do and don't do. I've done 7 of the last 8 contracts, folks. This is by far the best contract we have ever had in the CSU. We expected blood and all kinds of takeaways. Up until Friday of the last week, there were no longer any IRPs. They kept saying, we don't want IRPs. It allows employees to tell us what to do. We don't have the money. We don't have the financing. All of a sudden, they said, we want a contract. Will you accept status quo, meaning no changes on the IRP process? And don't forget, when you turn in an IRP, if it's denied by your boss for financial reasons, it's automatically resubmitted next year. You have to request it. Just go to your boss. I submitted it last year. You said there was no money. And please do your submissions in writing. A verbal offer to your boss about anything. The only thing verbal you do now is ask for vacation time. Which is a huge, huge success. It used to be I had to have 30 days in advance in writing before I could take off and go. I can call my boss today and say, hey boss, my sister's in town tomorrow. Can I take off tomorrow morning for vacation? If the boss says yes, you can do it. Big win for the employees. Overwhelmingly, folks, the vast majority of all the chapter presidents, the bargaining team, the people that help us out, our paid staff, and so far all the chapters we've talked to have urged a yes vote on the contract. There really isn't a downside to this. There's nothing we're hiding. It's posted online. You can actually read the entire tentative agreement at the CSUEU.org website. There's an FAQ questions in front of you. If you have questions, you can write to us, call us. We will add you to the list. There's the phone number if you need a provisional ballot. And all of us now are in the room, and we will field about 20 minutes of questions. And thank you. Yes, Catherine.
Regarding getting time off to go do a grievance,
Yes.
meet with somebody.
Yes.
Does the manager have to have a good reason to say no?
Operational needs.
Operational needs. And if it gets delayed, the timelines get delayed.
They get
Okay,
extended.
Good.
Yeah. One of the, well, actually, there's been several questions at the different campuses that we have come up with, but they've been real consistent. the question is, when do we get to see our money? That's the boiled down question. So for the ratification, if you're on pay status, on January 30th, the worst case scenario, we would be looking at March. The retroactive pay of 3%, and they would take into account for those who have been reclassed, because they understand all of that. That'll probably take a little bit longer because generally they have to figure that stuff out by hand and then submit to the state auditors. Worst case scenario, again, March. They told us best case scenario to actually see the 3% in our regular pay check would be in February. I'm telling all the campuses, don't hold your breath. We're dealing with the state auditor, and most likely it will be in March. What we said about March for the 650 and the retroactive pay, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't show up till April. Again, we get to ratify. All those who vote yes and the ratification passes, then the Board of Trustees has to ratify as well. They're looking at January 30th in order to ratify. We will, again, if you do not receive a provisional or your ballot, a paper ballot for 5 and 7, you need to contact headquarters or get a provisional ballot from Nick, your chapter president. So I think that about covers it. Yes?
I have a question on the vacation language.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you work for a department chair, is your department chair?
Okay, since I work in an academic department, and this has always been the procedure that we have followed in my college, and I've recommended it across the board, and it seems to be something that is normal. Usually what you do is you ask your department chair, because they would be the one that your dean or whoever would contact. So once you get the clearance on that one, then you email your dean, your HERA manager, and you state, I'm requesting time off. And again, it's going back to the 14 days they have to respond in writing. If they don't, you get to move it up the food chain. And I bet you your dean won't ever do that again. So they've learned the hard way. Now for the oral, generally you would again broach your chair, and then you would talk to your dean, and then you have to follow it up in writing. So for Unit 5, if you don't have access to send off an email, you would handwrite the note. And my recommendation strongly to everybody, make sure you keep a copy. I run paranoid, don't trust them, keep a copy for yourself.
A few important points, folks. The $650 is pre-taxed. So please don't go crazy with the $340 that you will actually receive. Just have to be honest about that. The vacation cap is not active in this year. It has to be when the new contract goes into effect. So even though you've been here 38 years or whatever it may be, you've got 284 and, what was it, the previous.
328.
Yeah. That doesn't happen yet, the new caps. For those of you who have been here since dirt, like me, if you've been here 10 years or more, that's an additional 7 days. That's important. So let me give you a quick tip. When you retire, try to retire the previous year before you retire. You want to end that year at the vacation cap, because your vacation is paid out when you leave at 100% of its value. Sick leave is 0.8 times the number of sick leave hours you have on file. It's 0.8 of a real day. But vacation is 1 for 1. So I get now 7 days more pay if I leave at before 40 hours, which happens to be the old APC cap. They finally gave us parity with APC. That's where the number comes from. So you want to retire in 2 years. On December 30th of 2018, I want to end at 440 hours. Why? Because there's no vacation cap your last year of employment. You're leaving. So how can there be a cap? There's nothing that you can forfeit because you're not going to be an employee come next year. So you accumulate all that time your last year, you're quitting in 6 months. What do you care? Come to work every day and enjoy the fact you're going to be off soon. And then on your last week of work, call payroll and tell them you want to defer that vacation payout into the next fiscal year. Because now your campus fund money has quit, you're no longer an employee, your tax rate just dropped, then your vacation check comes in for those 440 hours the previous year, plus however many you were that year, and you can make a nice couple $1,000s with very, very low tax rates that way. All right, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So with the vacation, because I'm on a 3-year plan.
Okay.
With that, so we actually get paid out for those vacation hours, and that's recommended over taking, because my boyfriend and I are both retiring about the same time,
Okay.
and we were like, well, we'll just take vacation for the last, to burn those hours, but it's better, financially, it's gonna benefit us to accumulate as much as possible, and then take it as a payout, because I didn't realize it was
because
a
you really do
one-to-one.
need to think about that.
I didn't realize it was a one-to-one.
On my campus, a lot of them would prefer to burn their hours
Right.
and not have to put up with a lot of, excuse my French, cockamamie bullshit anymore. But still be on payroll and not have to deal with the finances, the taxes. So on my campus, a good many people actually wait, and then if they're gonna retire in December, they have enough time to take from all of November into December, that's what they do. They burn the time that way. Some of them say, show me the money, but they're not smart enough, or knowledgeable enough, like what Rich said, to see if they can delay the funding until January the following year. And others actually do so there's several choices. You yourself and your boyfriend need to decide what benefits you the most. For me, I'll be honest with you, I'd rather burn the time, collect the paycheck, and not have to deal with my faculty, my chair, my students. That's my preference, so.
Training year replacement.
Okay, I just didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, training your replacement, I'm out of here.
And then change my email address.
By the way, folks, another pro tip from a friend of mine who just did this. You do not have to tell the campus you're retiring. You can go to the local CalPERS office and do everything there in private and then just vanish.
I've had a few of those people do that, and then HR goes, you need to talk to your people, and I go, hey, that's an idea, I like it. But anyway, but a lot of people do, because I don't know where there's a CalPERS office that's local for you guys. President, yeah, and for me, it's in Costa Mesa, that's an hour drive in traffic. It'd be a lot less without the traffic. So, I mean, that's what all of us, and a good many people. I had one who was on campus for 32 years, and she was so angry at a former dean that she went down to CalPERS, she signed all the paperwork, and then she said she got a doctor's notification because she was so stressed out. And so she was out for 6 weeks, and then she retired. Nobody knew anything about it.
Is that true for all CalPERS employees, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So you really do need to think about if you're planning on retirement.
Yeah, I just didn't realize the vacation was paid out, there wasn't.
That is earned money.
The sick time, there's a conversion factor, but I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, the sick time, I'm a hoarder of my sick time because I know it converts to time for retirement. For
So is
vacation time.
that language in the contract, like I can use that person? Oh, no, that's a CalPERS.
It's CalPERS.
That's a CalPERS.
So okay.
Go to the CalPERS website and see it all.
Yeah, I tried.
You got one
It's
there.
not easy.
No.
No, it's not.
Yes.
So if you have a year of sick, can you use that whole sick to retire a year early?
Yes.
Do you have a doctor's notification?
Also, you have to have doctors, you can't
After
set
5
that.
days.
What we have, you can be out sick for 5 days, and after that, you need to come in with a doctor's notification to get out.
And ballparks are about 1,800 hours of sick on the books gives you another year's service credit when you retire. So if you left for 30 years plus 1,800 sick, you'll have 31 years of payouts. It counts as time.
Yeah, we've had a number of questions like that on my campus, where people, why can't I use the time? Well, unless you have documentation, they can turn around and say that you're AWOL, or that you're providing fraudulent, or you're not being upfront about it.
Yeah, what he said is the same thing. You're getting a year of service, so
Yeah,
it's
sell it
just
back.
like leaving a year early is the same thing.
Yeah. So as long as you have the, 18?
Yeah. Now, for those of you who are young, if you leave the CSU today and decide You go to HR and say, hey, I'm leaving for whatever reason. They will ask you, do you want to cash out your sick leave and your vacation time? If you say yes, you get your check and you're on your way. They pay you out fairly. But if you ever go back to any other CalPERS qualifying agency, like state prisons or the DMV or Caltrans, any of that, you would start over again at 0 seniority. If you keep your sick and vacation on the books, you won't have seniority in that agency, but you'll have vacation earning ability at wherever you left off with your previous agency. So, for instance, you worked here for 7 years, and you're 52 years old, not quite old enough to retire yet. So you leave. They'll say, do you want to cash out your sick leave and vacation? I'd say no. Because come back when you're 62 and work for a state agency for 1 more year, then you get your health care and your retirement and all that. And that's worth $750,000 to retire with health care for life. We're one of the few agencies that still have that. It's one of our best benefits. And for those who maybe Kaiser people, watch out. Kaiser's going up $160 a month in January for a family.
Yes?
Keep saying cashing out sick leave, you don't cash out sick leave. You only cash out vacation. And CTE.
What they mean is that your sick leave won't go away if you say cash out, and this way you can keep it all on the books.
Don't take any of it.
Don't take any of it.
Then you come back later when you're retired, cash it out.
And cash out for sick leave means it just gets converted to service.
Hours times point out.
So any other questions?
We'll be around folks who want to come and see us unless you've got any unit-specific issues. Thank you, one and all. Enjoy your afternoon.